Week 11 of the fantasy football season, and here's the top 12 DST defensive units. I'm ranking this week number 1, the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys, a great matchup this week at the Carolina Panthers. For the most part, they've turned the football over a lot. Their offensive line isn't all that great, and this Cowboy defense a top 5 unit in the league this season. So last week, I know this Cowboy defense, people expected more out of them versus the New York Giants. Even though they did beat them 49-17, they only had 10 fantasy points. Was this Cowboy DST. But this week at Carolina, where there's really no weapons on the offense besides Adam Thielen, I think this Cowboy team this week gets things going on the road and have a great game. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. So the Browns DST, one of the better units in the league. I know last week they won a shootout ball game at the Baltimore Ravens, but they still had a pick 6. They still had a few sacks in that game. And this week here versus one of the worst offenses in the league in the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they don't really have anything going offensively, even though Pittsburgh's 6-3 on the season. So Myles Garrett in the discussion, obviously, for Defensive Player of the Year. Denzel Ward, one of the best corners in the league. And this week, I think this defense could take over this ball game and make some plays in a division grind-out type of game versus the Steelers. Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers, after the bye week, everything was hitting on all cylinders last week with a 34-3 victory at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this week here, good matchup versus Tampa Bay. I know Baker Mayfield is playing good football this season. I know Rachaad White's been playing better football the last month of the season. And we know Mike Evans is always a great receiver, but this season off to a better start than he was last year. So right now they got Chase Young, got Randy Gregory a few weeks ago, and they just got to get to the quarterback and make some plays. And this week here versus a mediocre Tampa Bay offensive line, and Baker Mayfield still is a quarterback that's prone to turnovers. I think San Francisco has a good game once again for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers a great matchup this week at the Cleveland Browns. Rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson getting the start. He's had one start under his belt this season. Deshaun Watson out for the year with a broken shoulder. And I think this Steelers defense early and often kick pressure on Robinson in this one. Robinson, we know he's an elusive type of running quarterback. Arm strength isn't all that great. They got good weapons. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, and the Joker in the lineup. I believe it's going to be a lot of running in this one for the Cleveland Browns, where Robinson's only going to have to make a few throws. So this could be a division matchup where both defenses play great, mid-teens, low 20s between these two teams. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising, though, if this game is like a 10-6 final as well, because Steelers defense has been great all season, and this Brown defense has been pretty solid for the most part, with two weak offenses going at it. I have the Detroit Lions, so the Lions a good matchup versus Chicago Bears. Fields, he's not 100% coming into this game. Gripping the football definitely could be a problem for Justin Fields. And this Bear offensive line isn't all that great as well. And on offense, pretty much it's been Cole Kmet and DJ Moore in the passing game. And Devonta Foreman's been decent, but Khalil Herbert possibly could return as well. But anyway, they give up the third most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. Detroit this week to buckle down, back at home and play a good game. Number 6, the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins as a streaming option have been solid this season for fantasy owners. And this week here, great matchup with the Raiders coming to town. The Dolphins getting a little healthy in the secondary with Ramsey almost at 100%. We know he came back a few weeks ago, but now to get the bye week helps. Xavier Howard back, Bradley Chubb, and now with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback, I think they could get to him early and often. This offense really hasn't moved the football all that great, even though Josh Jacobs has played better the last few weeks. But I think Miami's offense gets off to a good lead early in this game, makes them one-dimensional, and tees off on this Raider offense. Number 7, the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, they've been a top 5 unit all season in fantasy points. So right now, a tougher matchup, no doubt about it. Division rival. Thursday Night Football, the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals, high-powered offense. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow back on the same page. Joe Mixon making plays, Tyler Boyd. But I think the Baltimore Ravens, they could get to Burrow a few times, create a few turnovers. We saw Burrow turn it over 2 times versus Houston. So I think Baltimore this week, they're not going to put up those top 5 numbers, but definitely still be a serviceable defense. Number 8, the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills have a good matchup this week here versus the New York Jets, that we know is one of the worst offenses in the league. So the New York Jets can't move the football well. Zach Wilson, one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, and the Jets should have went with another option in a trade or even signed the Carson Wentz or something a few weeks ago. But anyway, Zach Wilson, he don't score touchdowns. The Jets haven't scored a touchdown the last 39 drives. And this Bill team, they're going to show desperation, I believe, in this game, 5-5. I know a lot of injuries. Tre'Davious White out for the season. Dequan Jones out for the season. Matt Milano. But right now, I think this defense buckles down and has a good game versus a bad offense of the Jets. Number 9, the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders, they're streaming option only this week. They got a good matchup versus the Giants that give up the most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. It looks like Tommy DeVito is going to be starting at quarterback once again. And DeVito, to be honest, last week, no doubt, he took a beating versus the Dallas Cowboys. But he hung in there and he tried to make some plays. And the Giants actually did put some points up on the board in terms of taking fantasy points away from the Cowboys in garbage time. But anyway, I think the Commanders and the Giants, this is a close game like it was in Week 7. And once again, I think the Commanders put in a decent performance. Number 10, the New York Jets. So the Jets, they travel to Buffalo in this one. And they got Josh Allen's number Week 1, 4 turnovers. And last season, the Jets shut down this high-powered Bill offense. So this Bill offense, obviously something's been wrong over the last few weeks where they just got off to slow starts out of the gate. And they haven't really scored the football in the first half where they play catch-up in the second half and still get their numbers. But now with Dorsey added offensive coordinator, I think we're going to see the scheme change up a little bit and this Bill team try to get off to quick starts. But this New York Jet defense, they have a lot of good players. The Williams brothers on the front lines, Mosley in the linebacking crew. It's going to be tough sledding once again for Josh Allen. Even though this Jet team, I know they don't turn the football over a lot and create turnovers. Number 11, Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers, they've been a solid streaming option this season when they've had favorable matchups. And this week, once again, I believe it's a favorable matchup at the Packers. Jordan Love's been up and down this season. He's had some big games this year, Love, and some games where he hasn't shown up and done much. And with 2 premier pass rushers versus a young quarterback like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, I think they could cause havoc in this game at Lambeau Field and make a few plays and get a few sacks. And the 12th and final defense I'm ranking is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars, their defense is amongst the league leaders in turnovers created. I know last week they got the doors blown off. This Jaguar DST versus San Francisco 49er offense. But this week here, good matchup versus division rival, the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis, his first start of his career, Week 8, he had a monster game. But the last 2 weeks, he's failed to find the end zone, throwing or running for a touchdown. So this week, I think Jacksonville defense gets back on track. They throw the tape out from last week, and they buckle down on one of the worst offensive lines in the league and one of the worst offenses in terms of putting up points this season as well. Even though they got some good weapons, obviously Derrick Henry still a top 10 back in my opinion. You got DeAndre Hopkins who still could go out there and make plays, but for whatever reason, it hasn't been clicking. So that's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.